I am Air Force retired Lieutenant Colonel. I'm a cyberspace officer. Was communications is what I did, and but I knew Spanish. So for 22 years, the Air Force used me, my Spanish skills, my regional immersion capabilities, along with the U.S. Southern Command down in Miami. So I spent a lot of time in places like Colombia, the Northern Triangle, and so over the span of 22 years, I could defend or hack your network, right? Because that's really what I did to begin with. But I had a dual job in the Air Force, and the second one was what they call a foreign area officer. And my specialty was, the Southern Hemisphere, which is anything, Mexico all the way down into places like Chile and Brazil. I had to spend a lot of time in places like Rio and Brasilia, and a lot of it is just tracking, who the bad guys were. And so I come home and, I retire in 2016 and going to live my life. And I realized back in 2018, 2019, that we have a crisis on the border. And at that time, we had a Republican Congressman, Will Hurd, and what turned out to be he was more of a never Trumper, or he didn't believe there was a crisis on the border. I mean, at least he told me so. And so I brewed like every other American. And by the way, I'm from Del Rio, Texas. I'm born and raised in that little town that's the epicenter of this mess, along with Eagle Pass. And you can go down to Laredo, and it's just plagued with this mess. I live in beautiful Medina County. And so I ran for Congress against that guy. We lost by 7 votes to the current Congressman, Tony Gonzalez, and who's turned out to be an open borders Republican, you see. And anyway, all that said, swore off politics except for Medina County, that used to be a part of that district, then became part of Senate District 24. And the short of it is, we can't let my opponent, who's running a second time to be a senator again, a failed senator, we're just not going to sit back, because they're open borders, pro-amnesty as well. And so that goes back to what we're discussing here. And, what do we do about the border? What are the solutions? I was in Del Rio yesterday and got some videos on my Facebook page, Reyes, the number 4 Texas. If you type that in, you'll get to it. Same thing with my website. And but I'm a border hawk. There's just too many issues plaguing us at the border. Fentanyl, the Chinese down in Mexico providing the chemicals for it. And then, of course, border policies that were working under the Trump administration, now broken by Biden. And here's the thing. Everybody is at the beginning, well, the federal government needs to do this and the federal government needs to do that. Those were the statements. I think everybody understands that the federal government purposely broke this. And I don't think we have open borders. I think we have no borders policy coming out of the Joe Biden administration. So there you have it.
Yeah, I've been covering this, as you know, for a little over a year now. And I have actually said frequently that they're facilitating this, and they're reversing a lot of the policies that would protect the border on purpose for whatever the reason is. Now, you did mention, I looked at some of your videos, you did mention that they're doing it on purpose to turn the state blue. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so that's the inbound, point here. But, as I look at it now, I think they're just trying to turn the entire United States blue. And they have the perfect template, right? They did that to California back after 1988 when Ronald Reagan, his final term in office, and the Bushes took over. We see California and Simi Valley with a lot of the industry, the technology that went to, Simi Valley. And all of a sudden you have all these technological boom in California, while they bring in a bunch of illegal immigrants, aliens into the state. And what has happened is, over the span of 20 years, they turned California blue. And so now they've ruined that state, right? But you have a guy named Joe Biden in the White House. He's using the same template. If you look at Texas, the good news for us is we've got a lot of technological industry coming in. But a lot of those workers are brought in from California and New York. And all of a sudden, the floodgates in our southern borders are open, and we have a lot of illegal aliens coming in. people would agree they're going to places like Boston and Philadelphia. But at the rate we're going, this isn't illegal immigration from 20 years ago. This is a whole new level. And I'll give you some numbers. 1,700 people a day would come in, and Border Patrol agents would max out, you see. But we're seeing somewhere in the upwards of 7,000. The reason we don't notice this, and you notice as well, is because they're running an ant operation. You know, it's an hormiguero is what you would say in Spanish. You take a lot of little ants, instead of piling them in one place under the bridge of Mexico, like they did with the Haitians, they scattered them across the border. And it looks like you get 50 here and 20 there and 30 there. But over the span of 24 hours, you're looking at 7,000 people. When Title 42 goes away, I think it's May 23rd next month, we literally are going to have upwards of 17 to 20,000 a day. And already Border Patrol's maxed out. So yeah, it's not just we're going to run out of big city places for these people to go. You can send them to Washington, D.C. all day long, but eventually they're going to end up in places like rural America, you know, out in the, you know, places like Castroville, Texas, which is a small, or, you know, farm community, Burnett, Lampasas, Llano. These are all small town communities outside the Austin and San Antonio area. And so, you know, this is why we're in the fight to get to the Senate, because the solution is no longer waiting for the federal government. It is now Texas must act, and there is a constitutional basis for doing that.
Good. I do have a couple of questions on that. The first one is, I'm going to write this down because I don't want to forget. The first one is what solutions can be done for because I know it's federal versus the, you know, federal suing, the government's suing Texas, Texas is suing the feds. What are some solutions that you can pinpoint that might help here?
Yeah, and so in the beginning, what we would say is, you know, and this is something Trump did. He pressured Mexico and said, look, we do 250, $260 billion worth of trade, you know, coming across the port of entries down in Laredo, especially because it's one of the largest, the largest port of entry, actually rivals Long Beach in California and anything out there in Boston or the Eastern seaboards. And so what happens is, you know, you got like Trump telling Mexico, you better keep these people on the other side or I'll shut the border down. And he was a guy willing to do it, you see. So about a year ago, you know, when Trump lost and we saw the Biden administration doing these things, we started to encourage the state of Texas. You know, we were activists, we were not running for any campaign. And the one solution would have been to literally shut down the ports. But there is no will to do that at the governor or lieutenant governor level, or nobody on the state Senate or legislators calling for it other than ourselves. And so now with the numbers that I just gave you recently, where we're up to upwards of 7,000 illegal alien entries, and that does not include the gotaways, Lauren, it just includes what we're seeing. And you've been on the border, you see how, you know, how stressed the Border Patrol, the Guard, and of course DPS are. And so what happens is the solution now is to declare what is the border. It's not a mess, it's not a crisis anymore, it's an invasion. And so once we just declare an invasion, then we can go to you know, Article 1, Section 10, Part 4, or Clause 4, that says if the federal government is unable to, unwilling, which is I think this is the case, or purposefully, which is really the case here, not going to defend our sovereignty, because that's why we were unionized. You see, 50 states got together and said, these United States, not the federal states of America. And so we're at declare an invasion, exercise the Constitution. We now, Texas, should detain and then deport. And what will happen is we'll go to the Supreme Court. They'll look at us a little funny. But at the end of the day, you know, we'll be able to prove that the federal government hasn't done their part in this arrangement that we call the Constitution, where the states created the federal government specifically to do this. And so there you go, that we're at that part now. And in my campaign, we're calling for that because I don't know how we sustain 17 to 20,000 people per day. We're talking 200,000-300,000 people a month. It's going to blow the numbers right off the hinges of anything we've ever seen. And the travesty is that, you know, everybody forgets we are Texans and these are our roadways, these are our schools, our communities. And if you've been to Del Rio or Eagle Pass, when a large flow of people come in, say 200 or 300 at a time, and they're all at that convenience store down there, they start to scatter, and they're walking around the McDonald's, they're walking around down our boulevards. And, these are people that are hungry. Some of them have money, and some of them literally just trying to get down to the next, wherever their next can are, but some of them have, bad intentions, and we can't have that.
So you must be speaking to the people in your area. What are they saying about this? How did they feel about it? How is it affecting them?
Yeah, so I was in Del Rio yesterday. I'm born and raised there, although I live in Medina County, which is about 100 miles east, where my Senate district is. And here in the district, everybody's concerned about those border, crossings, because we're starting to see Interstate 35 runs through my district. We've got a few other major thoroughfares that run up and down. This is a very north and south district. And so people are starting to see these white buses, and they're starting to see white buses parked in places like Burnett and Lampasas. And so people are wondering, okay, what are these buses doing here? And the answer is obvious. They're either resting up to move forward to somewhere else, or eventually they're going to create asylum shelters there. Specifically in places like Del Rio, where I'm born and raised, and I went to visit yesterday. We did some videos. You'll see those on the Reyes for Texas website if you want to look at those, and even our Facebook media or social media. But talking to a lot of my relatives and friends that live there, they're not one bit happy. In fact, they understand that May 23rd, the floods gates are gonna open wide open like they've never been before, because they know there's 150,000 people on the other side of the river, somewhere between Piedras Negras and Coahuila, Ciudad Acuña, which is Del Rio and Eagle Pass. And they've been there for a while because they've been waiting for Title 42 to go away. Well, that happens May 23rd, so nobody's happy. I was staying at a hotel. I got in an elevator with a young man, and he looked a little wore out. He just looked like he just changed out of, some uniform. And I did ask him, I said, our guard, DPS, or Border Patrol, which one are you? He says, guard. I said, well, how are things going? And he literally says, living the nightmare. And he does this with his fingers. I said, what does that mean? He says, that's me counting every day, because that's what I do. And they're counting illegal aliens coming in. So, the part where we apprehend via the, Department of Public Safety or the guard is accurate. We're apprehending, but we're giving them back to Border Patrol, who then turns around, and you already know this, Oren, they catch and release, put them on buses, and they end up the road. The problem is the gotaways, because they're not wanting to get caught. And so they're the ones, stealing pickup trucks and trying to make money by moving more people or drugs across. And those are the ones that are putting Texas more so than anybody else in harm's way. Some of these people don't even have driver's license. And so here they are in America, making their way up north or somewhere. They don't want to get caught, and then off to a car chase or a bailout. And we've had a few people get killed here. You know this. We had a mom and her daughter down in South Texas that were killed by, just a car chase of sorts, and they were on the, just bad timing. Right there near Del Rio, north of there, about a year ago, we had, illegal alien pushing north on a car chase, and he ran into a family, and had something like 6 people killed there too. So these are the things that the, mainstream media isn't talking about. We're all in Ukraine right now. In fact, I think they're thinking of building a wall in Ukraine, but we can't seem to, at least secure the southern border. So nobody's happy down here, and more so with some of the rhetoric that's coming out of Boston. It makes for great sound bites, but a lot of it is not actionable events that can really solve this problem. So
now you have some good perspective on this. Your father is a legal immigrant, correct?
that is correct. He came here when he was about 11 or 12 legally, yes.
Okay, where
Yes,
did he come from?
He literally was right from the town across from Del Rio in Ciudad Acuña, came over illegally with, my grandmother, same thing. And so, when you talk to someone like my dad, and I'm a first generation American, here we are sounding the alarm, and we are the American dream. His son grows up, I become a Air Force officer, retires a lieutenant colonel. We're now home builders. We do what we're supposed to do in this country. We contribute, and we keep ourselves outside the federal government, subsistence that they want to provide to everybody. And so we've done what we're supposed to do as Americans. His dream has come true to see his children grow up in America, but he sees what's happening, and he's got all the red flags going up, screaming at the TV, saying, "You've got to do something, or we're going to turn America not into just Mexico, but Venezuela." Both are bad scenarios. One is just run by the cartel, which is, if you go into the southern part of our state, it's already run by the cartel. They're running things. But if you do this to the rest of America, you're going to turn it into California, which ultimately results in a Venezuela style regime change from the inside. And you just have to look at places like France and Germany that had a large influx of immigrants come in at one time. And Angela Merkel, of how she stayed in power, I have no idea, because she's completely ruined the German culture out there for sure.
Yeah, it's a shame. I've said to people in conversation before, like, I get the humanitarian need, but you cannot just empty the entirety of Central America into the United States and have it be sustainable. And at what point do we become what they left?
Right. And here's the big thing too. Texans right now are suffering through very, very high property taxes. Again, it sounds a whole lot like of what happened in California. So ultimately what happens under this scenario is the lower middle income of our state, the ground and pound, workers, when they start to retire, will retire to Social Security, which will not be enough to sustain the taxes on their property, even after they pay it. And so you have this convergence of property back to the state, and you have this turnover of society that it wasn't meant to be. So we're suffering from high taxes while we try to pay for everything that's on the border, because we won't just solve this by detaining and deporting. We're at those levels of extremism out here as far as what we're dealing with when it comes to illegal immigration. So
it's a financial burden on the communities also, correct?
Yeah, everybody is going to suffer here. We're not going to be able to print enough money at the federal level. I mean, they're already doing it by the droves. And, Texas this year had a surplus of something like $25 billion. We should take that $25 billion and pay down our property taxes and give everybody real respite here. But we're not going to be able to, because we just this past year spent $3.5 billion on a process where DPS and the Guard, wonderful people who are following the law or following orders, really, rules of engagement, they arrest, detain, and give them back to Border Patrol, who then catches and releases anyway. So we just washed $3.5 billion right down the drain. We cannot do that and continue to say we're actually impacting, securing the border. It's not happening, Laura, not one bit.
And I know there are certain counties in Texas that are participating in Operation Lone Star, which allows the DPS to arrest and kind of detain, put them in prison and go through trial. But still, like after a trial, then what happens? Those are my questions. But at least it's a deterrent, maybe, that if people hear that they will be detained, maybe they won't go through. I don't know how that works. Maybe.
Well, it's a great soundbite. When Greg Abbott came out, and I was in Del Rio last year when he did it. I want to say it was May or June timeframe, and he said, we're going to build the wall. Well, it turned out to be a chain link fence, and if you've been down there, they rip holes through that all day long. And he said, we're going to arrest people. And I mean, the whole civic center down there, I was there, just erupted, and this is horrific. And then, of course, the sheriffs in the back are asking the question, where are we going to put these people? And but never said we were going to deport people. And the answer is, it's a prolonged version of catch and release. We're spending money to run them through this process where the state of Texas arrests people, but ultimately gets them back to DHS, who then releases them into the country. So we're just spending a lot of.
Yeah, it could be a deterrent, but they're just going to find another way in, then they may not go to that county, because word does
Yeah,
spread.
Kenny County, which is one county over from Del Rio and Brackettville, and Brad Coe is the sheriff out there. Brent Smith is the county attorney. They've been, hard nosed about arresting people, and they send them down to this place called Dilley, Texas. And but they slap, they arraign them and adjudicate. But when the trespassing, breaking of the law is a misdemeanor, you're not going to be able to deport. Now, and that's one other solution that I provided in my campaign is we need to make it a felony to illegally trespass into any county, so they can adjudicate at that point by law. If when you hand it back to DHS, they have to deport, because we are not allowing any felons to come into the country. At least we shouldn't. And although Joe Biden is getting away with a lot and might still do it, but at least we'll have done everything we can to do that. But we have to declare an invasion, and Greg Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick are going to have to muscle up and start to detain and deport people. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah, that's the problem I'm seeing, is that the DHS is allowing the asylum process to be polluted and diluted, I guess is the better. They're not really, they're taking many claims that they're not properly vetting them and saying, okay, and I know the migrants are being coached. I've been following.
Yeah, they all say the same thing, Lauren, and they're leading. So I talked to a lot of my Border Patrol agent friends, unofficially, and because, we're friends, and they're just disgusted by the fact that, 99% of these people do not qualify for asylum. And we've all known that for a long time. People have stopped asking. And even the bigger tragedy is, if you go down to Donna, Texas, Dilley, Texas, you go to Pecos, Texas, even Crystal and Carrizos, which is Dimmitt County, right there near Del Rio, about an hour and a half away. They opened up these huge warehouse, they're pop tents, and these are asylum shelters for children and women. And, they had to close one down in Crystal City because I believe a child was raped or molested or something. So they closed it down, and then they opened it up as a new entity. And this is what's happening in Texas. I'm 100% sure there's a lot of kickback to our politicians. This is why nobody's balking at it. And but we're going to make as much noise as we can. Enough is enough. And come May 23rd, people are going to realize, what a mess it's really going to be when not just the border communities suffer, but places up into North Austin and just northern rural communities are going to start to see what happens when we don't protect the border. And so yeah. I hope we don't get to that.
People don't tend to pay attention to things until it affects them directly. It's that's
right. Until it's
on my backyard thing, right?
That's correct. That is correct.
They're going to start seeing it, and it's a shame that we are, as a society in general, reactive instead of proactive.
Yep. And why under the leadership? And by the way, I'm running as a Republican, so I'm chastising my own here. I don't understand why. Under the leadership of a Republican governor in Texas, a Republican lieutenant governor, which is, by the way, one of the most powerful men in Austin, that Dan Patrick, and numerous senators that claim to be Republican, as well as House representatives, aren't out there with a bullhorn like we are, saying enough is enough. We've got to do something because we're beyond being caught on our heels. We're going to have to react so harshly. It's going to be unnerving. Is what's going to happen here.
It has the potential for catastrophe.
Yeah.
One other thing I know you have a busy schedule. The videos that you took, just tell me the things that you are seeing, because and I'll try to share those also when I.
Yeah. So if you look at those videos, a lot of the things that we see is, it's just bus after bus. And, if you were to go to the border today or tomorrow, whenever, it's almost programmed the way the buses come in and come out. And again, you have to think about, in Spanish, it's called an hormiguero, but you'll hear the terms, ant operation, and it's the way they disperse a lot of people across the border. And so, I noticed that even yesterday. Sure, you're going to go to the NGO, which is the Valverde Humanitarian Center right there in Del Rio, and you'll see them. You'll see my video where there's a lot of people there, and it's mostly military-aged men. Yeah, there's some women, but it's mostly military-aged men. Look perfectly healthy to me. If there was a problem in their country, You would think that they stand up for their Constitution and defend it in their country, but they're all here. They have better phones than I do, than you do. Some of these people are carrying Gucci bags. We call them the Gucci immigrants because they're coming in with a lot better apparel than we have, and a lot of Venezuelans and Cubans, and it's just a conglomerate of folks. But the key thing here is if you were to go to the border and if you weren't paying attention, you would realize, well, there's not a problem here because there's not a lot of people here, but it's the way they've scattered across the border. Leave no room for doubt. There's 7,000 illegal aliens coming in, and those are the ones that we catch. The gotaways are probably just as much, if not 1.5 times, according to Border Patrol. And when we go to May 23rd, this number is going to be 17,000. What I suspect is going to happen next is DPS and the Guard are going to have to start to process people, because right now, Border Patrol, they're not even on the field. They're literally processing as fast as they can. My biggest concern also is in places like, up in the hill country, and I need to verify this, and I'll do my best to do that for us here. But what I heard was that they stopped a bus full of illegal aliens, a white bus, and everybody already had a work visa. I don't know how that happens straight off the border, because you have to go through a long process to get a green card for a work visa. And if that's happening, then the Biden administration is breaking the law, and we're sounding the alarm about that. We need to validate that and verify it.
Yeah, if you find that out, please let me know.
Yeah, so we're looking into it, and just know that some of those things, Biden's already broken every constitutional law there is about immigration. And so there's no doubt they're going to do whatever it takes. And now that we know that, Texas being the preponderance of the border state in America, along with Arizona and California, we need to act. And that's why my campaign for the Senate run is to make as much noise about that, expose my opponent as a pro-amnesty, open borders guy, and then let people decide what they want to do. But we're going to say our piece and pray that people understand that we need to be proactive, like you're saying right now, before we're not even going to be able to be reactive, because it's so bad.
Well, and I appreciate your time. I just want to give people your website is Reyes, Reyes, the number 4.
Texas.
Texas. It's spelled out.
.com. Yeah, it's going to be Reyes, the number 4, Texas.com. If you go to Facebook or Instagram or any of those, you just type in Reyes, the number 4, TXAS. Social media is just type in Reyes for Texas, and it'll pop up. You'll see our videos there. And again, we're proud Republicans. We are proud, America First Republicans, and we're pushing some of our own here in this great state of Texas who I call them squishy Republicans, because they don't have the backbone to just do what the Constitution has allowed every great state in the union to do, and that's be sovereign under the terms by which we were unionized. And so anyway, thank you for having me. And if you have any more questions, you want to do some more videos, I'm going to be running back down to the border next week. I'll throw some videos back up on our social media, and if you want to talk about that, we can as well. Okay.
That'd be great. And thank you for your years of service in the Air Force.
Oh, thanks, Lauren. Appreciate it. Okay.
Have a great day.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.